Hey, welcome back to the ladies' room. I'm Miss Lady, and today we are talking about I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. This was my first book of the year, recommended to me by my sister. I have been wanting to read this book for so long. As far as literacy, this is one of the classics, and I never read it from cover to cover, but I finally got a chance to read it all through, and I'm so happy that I did. I have to admit that I did use audio books for some of this because she reads it herself, and hearing her read it herself just added a little bit of extra. Some things that she read out of her book were you could tell they really came from the heart, and other parts were more playful, and I probably wouldn't have read it that way in my head, if that makes sense. The review was pretty long on this one because it was my first book of the year and I was super excited about it, and I wanted to give the reader like a glimpse into what like my mindset was, like put you in the feeling of reading the book. It was bringing me back to the last blizzard that I was in 30 years ago. Let's start from the beginning. We're immediately transported to Stamps, Arkansas, where Maya is a little girl. She was sent to live with her grandmother at a really young age. Everyone referred to her grandmother as Mama. She's the matriarch of the family. It's her and her brother, and she lives with her uncle who is disabled or differently abled. This is the early 1900s, and things were quite simple in Stamps. So her mom was the only black person to own a general store. He paints this picture of the store as something dreamy in the morning, the way that the sun cracks through the windows at dawn and everything has such a rustic feel. And then as the day goes on, the workers who worked in the fields would come through with all their hopes and aspirations. By the time the day dwindles down, everyone is tired, disappointed by the lack of crops by the day, and it seems like they were getting paid less and less. So there was a big strain on the community. There were only a few outlets for this at the time. She takes us through her experience with church and with the revivals, which was another interesting story. And again, the way that she paints it cracks me up because one of the stories she talks about when she was younger, how one of the ladies would catch the Holy Ghost and run around the church like doing laps, chasing the pastor around. Hilarious. And the other one was when she started singing some of the songs that they sung in the church at the time, which definitely touched my heart. I write in my review that I like how observant she is as a child. She has a childhood innocence still, you could see in the book, from things that they talk about that she didn't know at the time what it meant, to her slowly coming into herself. Some things in the book weren't just her coming into herself, more so her being forced into a position where she had to evolve. Let's go back to when her dad visits. So her mom and dad are still alive, and apparently her dad is in California and her mom is in St. Louis, and her dad is like a big shot. Everyone who moves to California is in the people in Stamps, in their mind, he's rich. So he comes back, he's talking, and the way she describes it is hilarious. She says that he always talks with the ers, like everyone in the town loves him, and then he leaves. And then soon after that, Mama, her grandma, decided that it was time for her and her brother to meet their mom or be reunited with their mom. They adore her. She is almost a fantasy, just like their dad in their mind. When they meet her, they instantly fall in love with her, and it seems like everything is going pretty smooth. They fall into a life in St. Louis relatively quickly until, I don't know what words I can say on here, an incident happens with her mother's boyfriend. Terrible incident, tragic, to no fault of Maya at all. She eventually has to come clean to her mom. They end up having to go to court over it, and then, to me, not surprisingly, the guy ends up, that was all she wrote about that. She explains how she internalized that, and pretty soon after that they were sent back to Stamps to live with their grandmother, and by then she just wouldn't even talk to anybody but her brother. People thought that she was a mute. She was so silent. She was just more observant and really didn't want to open up and share any part of herself with the outside world other than her family. She mentions in the book how she thought that her voice was dangerous, and I thought that that was a very powerful statement. I need to figure out what this lady's name was, but there was another black lady in the book who was very cultured, esteemed. She takes to this lady. This lady lets her borrow her books, and she learns a lot of things from this lady. Show her that you can open yourself up to the world a little bit more, which she does, and I like that. I need to figure out what her name was. Miss Williams was the teacher. Okay, Miss Williams was another one. She encouraged her to read, encouraged her to write, and she was another one that was very influential in her life. Mrs. Flowers. I think that's her name. I found it. No. Yeah. Mrs. Flowers. Her name was Mrs. Flowers, and I think that's so fitting. Some of the historical events that she added into the book were very interesting to see from her point of view, being a young girl. She was talking about a boxing match between the Brown Bomber, and I don't even know if they mentioned the name of the guy who he was fighting, but yeah, definitely won that fight. The community needed that win. The end of the book went really, really fast to me. But most books go really, really fast at the end to me. Where was I at? I forget now. Her grandmother thought that it would be best if Maya lived with her father. So she moves all the way to California to live with her father. And her father, just like she remembers him, everybody loves him. He has a girlfriend, but he's taking regular trips to Mexico to get it in. And one of those times she goes with him, and they end up in a situation. Luckily, Maya gets them out of it. She pretends to know how to drive a stick shift, drives them over 50 miles to the border. It was crazy. When they get back, her and her father's girlfriend start to argue more. They get into a big fight, and the girlfriend ends up cutting Maya. So Maya is sent back to live with her mother, and her brother at the time was back there, I think. And this is one of my favorite parts of the book. I won't ruin the end of the book, but more surprises, lots of twists and turns. This was a book that I tried to approach very carefully. Yeah, trigger warning for anyone who has sensitivities to things like that. Ups, downs, sharp turns, all of it is in this book. I was sad to finish it. I gave it all of the stars. Highly recommend, and it is my first and on the top of my book recommendations this year. Like I said, I was writing this and it was snowing, and we're preparing for this big blizzard that's happened by the time you're seeing this, and just bringing me back to a place that made me reflect on what type of weather has shaped me. So that was the question for the end of my blog. What type of weather has shaped you? Reading this memoir felt like watching a blizzard through the window. Intoxicatingly beautiful one moment, worrisome the next. Will the power go out? Was that a light flicker? I moved between the paperback and the audiobook and found particular meaning in hearing Maya Angelou read her own words. Her voice carries rhythm and intention, punctuating sentences like music. When she sings, it feels intimate and human, a reminder that joy and pain can occupy the same space. If you like content like this, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Highly recommend. Okay, bye.